When I was a child, I was raised with my father and my mother in a city called Saltillo. The state was Coahuila, Mexico, the country. And I was in a middle class family. My father was a professor at the university, a very prestigious university in that city, in Saltillo, and my mother was a school teacher. Before she retired, she was a principal as well for a few years, but most of my childhood she was a school teacher on 4th, 5th, and 6th grade in the public systems. I went to private schools where nuns will be teaching, and it was only girls. My brothers, I had two brothers, and my brothers went to a school where only boys will go there. So it was a very happy childhood. I remember since I was a child, I was always very active. I kept always wanted to be in extracurricular curriculum activities. So my mother put me in dance class, gymnastics. I was in running. I was in everything, but most of my childhood I did gymnastics. That was my main sport since I was 5 years old until the age of 15. So gymnastics play a very big role in my life, and it did help me a lot to become really good and very athletic and perform very well in my running. And when I used to compete at school, and cheerleading did help me with the acrobats at high school, and it was a really important part of my life, gymnastics. um, I did get good grades. I always wanted to do more when I was a child. I always wanted to do better, so I used to sometimes practice even after my practices in my room, and I would do push-ups and I would practice acrobats in the backyard since I was a little girl. In school, I did have a small group of friends. I did always, they knew, and I always felt that I was different from the other girls. Reason why I felt was different because I was very playful. Most of my friends will just sit down and have lunch, and we would talk. And I always preferred to go during recess and play a sport, basketball, run, play, do something. I was really active. Another thing that I remember when I was a child, I always wanted to be an actress, and this is something that since I was born, that's who I was. And teachers will ask, "What do you want to be when you grow up?" And I always say, "I want to be an actress. I want to be a famous actress." My career was going well at the beginning. My mom put me at a really young age in theater classes, performance classes, acting, and I did very well. I was able to get involved in about 6th grade into the state theater, and I did a very good performance called The Ghost of Canterville, with it was written by Shakespeare. And that performance, we were able to travel out of state with a group of actors, and I was really young. I was probably about 12 years old, and I stayed in that performance for about 2 years. Things did change drastically in my career and in my life when my parents did separate about when I was about 14 years old. That was the first dramatic major change in my life. I moved to my grandparents' house from my mother's side, and with my two brothers. And my parents did try to reconcile, but it did affect me a lot in my childhood. I was a teenager going through major changes as you know, from a little girl to a young lady, and I was always really in high school. I started to be really private, very sad. I started to suffer from depression. There was a point in my life where I felt that life wasn't worth for me anymore. I just felt that I wasn't giving and adding any value in my family. I blamed myself for my parents' divorce. I just wanted to fix that, and I didn't know how. So my life as a high school student was difficult. My friends will enjoy going to parties, and I just focused in high school mainly in my grades and the sports. And even on my high school graduation, I went to with a boy that went with me to the graduation, and he asked me where my father was, and I lied. I say he was on a trip. It was just very difficult for me to share that information, that my parents were getting a divorce, and that I was living with my grandparents. It was really sad. It was very hard for me. It wasn't embarrassing. I don't know how to explain. It was very hard on me. I had a lot of behavioral difficulties when they started to having trouble as a marriage. When they were 14, in a class in basketball, one of my friends and I decided to take the coach's car. She drove it because I didn't know how to drive, and we dumped the car right outside of a dealership, Volkswagen. And then we called the school and let them know that we found the car, that somebody stole it, and we got suspended for taking that coach's car for a whole month. So that was a really bad behavioral issue I had when I was 6, 7. I was in 8th grade at the private school. And then the next year, the nuns decided that I shouldn't be in that school anymore. So my mom had to switch me to another private school. But in this school, there were boys and girls. And I had difficulties, how to deal with other boys because I always was around girls. I remember too, I always liked negotiating and selling. When I was 5 years old, I will make these nice drawings for my parents. So I will sell it to them for a cent or 10 cents. I don't remember how much it was. But I always love drawing, art. I love writing love stories, family stories since I was a really young age, and I will sell those stories. I also will put a lemonade stand when I was about 7. So my childhood overall was a really happy childhood. I did have rough times, and 3 times when my father got me in trouble for instead of arriving at 8:30, I got home at 9 p.m. from a practice, from gymnastics practice. It was just a few things that I got in trouble for, and overall was a good childhood. I did get used to fight with my younger brother more than my oldest brother. My younger brother is about 3 years younger than me, and my older brother is only a year older. My childhood was really, really nice. I was raised with my cousins, my blood cousins from my mother's side. I was very close to them, and we used to do a lot of hiking. I remember hiking was a big part of my life. We have a lot of mountains up north. My grandfather had 2 big properties up north, one in a different location than the other one. One location we will see lambs, buffaloes, horses, cows, you name it. It was wild tigers on the mountains. It was really, really nice. It was cooler in that. And then we used to spend, my grandfather built a cabin for the entire family. So we'll spend sometimes some vacations there with my mom's side of the family. And we will go hiking, and I always like to go with everyone. And my girl cousins did not like to go that much farther to go hiking, so I will be the only girl hiking with boys. And I got in all kinds of trouble. I got into a few accidents. One, for example, was I fell on top of a cactus. Another one, I injured my feet on top of a mountain. My cousins had to carry me for about 1.5 miles. I couldn't walk. Also in a little lake, I put my feet in, and I lay on top of a glass that was broke. So I was bleeding extremely high, a lot. So everything used to happen to me. I had a lot of accidents also when I was playing in one go-kart, outside of my grandparents' house. I couldn't control the go-kart, and it went inside one of my uncle's trucks, and I got hurt in one of my arms. So I had quite a few scars from my childhood years, and like I said, I enjoy going hiking. I enjoy sports, and I always saw myself, and I always felt that I could do more, that I can do more, that I can do better. I always wanted to improve. I was very competitive. In gymnastics, I did win a few trophies, so I have a lot of medals, trophies, and also in running I did as well. And cheerleading was more of the entire team, will go to compete, but it was more of the entire team. But I enjoy more doing races and trying to win individually. So I struggle a little bit working as a team with somebody, because they were always slower than me, and they were always wanted to do it their way, and I had it always set up in my mind a different way. So I was very, to some degree, to myself, and I was probably the only one with my friends that I was very athletic, and they know that. I did lose a few of my friends when I moved from 8th grade to the new school. A few times some of my friends stopped talking to me. I never understood why. My friends from kindergarten, from all my life, all the students didn't talk to me. Never felt that what was wrong. I do remember in an event from a private school, I was wearing these shorts, and the shorts in the back, it said sexy on the shorts, in my shorts, and I was only maybe 12, 13. And the girls were talking behind my back, calling me names, just because the shorts say sexy. But that's how it was back then, it's very sad. And I believe that my friends got mad because I didn't want to go out and date some of the boys that they wanted me to date. In high school was a different story. In high school, my friends, since I was in kindergarten, stopped talking to me. I will go and talk to them, and they will ignore me in the middle of a conversation. And I started talking to other girls. These other girls were a little bit more wild. I remember them very well. All these other girls that I barely knew from before in high school. And I don't know, I also was not able to keep a long relationship with them, because they wanted to go out and drink, and that wasn't me. I never liked to go out and drink. I wanted to get my grades and hopefully one day go and study something in the United States. I didn't want to just go out and party like they did, and they used to hang out with boys that were a lot older than myself, so I never really got fit in, so I didn't feel like I fit in anywhere when I was in high school. And I really didn't care to fit in anywhere, because I had a lot of emotional distress over my family and my father and my mother going through the divorce. Their divorce probably lasted about 2-3 years, because they had a couple times they went back, and then I think was final when I was 17. And right after a few months, my father got remarried, and I didn't see my father for a very long time, for a few years. So I do feel that I did miss that father figure for many years, since I was about 17, and even before that, the last, since I was 14, 15, I barely see my father when I was living with my grandparents. So the last few years of my childhood was difficult because of the rupture of the marriage. But before that, my childhood was happy. My parents always loved each other very much. We used to go for walks. I would run 2-3 miles. They will walk together, hold hands, and I know they were married for about 20 years. So overall, my childhood was good, and I made it through, and it happens. I always felt that I was different, and I wanted to be an actress. And That's what I was meant to be. But my life did change 180 degrees when all this happened with my parents decided to split. My career in acting and theater changed. My direction for that changed. And I just went with the flow. And that was my childhood.